What to do, everybody? Welcome to the Fantasy Flex podcast from the Action Network and Fantasy Labs. I'm your host, Chris Raybon. This is your NFL Week 8 player projections episode. And as always, I am joined by one of the most accurate fantasy football rankers and projectors in the game, the odds maker, Sean Kerner. Sean, how's it going?
Pretty good. Projecting initial week 8 has been nuts. There has been so many big name injuries, a few cluster situations we'll get to, but I feel like injuries, especially to key players this year, is higher than normal. Am I crazy for thinking that?
No, there's been some bad injuries. They have cut down on the kickoff injury, so maybe it's just been less of like the scrubs getting hurt, so we're noticing these guys more. I don't know, but the last week was rough, especially for the Niners. I mean, the Saints have been decimated. The Bucks got decimated. The Chargers have been decimated in the past, and still kind of are. The Rams. So yeah, it's especially these West teams. What the West Coast of the country, it's been not as many of the East Coast teams, but who knows? All right, so we are, as usual, on the pod going to go quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end with our top 5 guys we're high and low on, and we'll throw out a prop as well. Let's start it off with the quarterback position. Oh, before we do, just want to remind everyone, all of our award-winning fantasy football content can be found on fantasylabs.com, rankings, projections, tools, and more. fantasylabs.com. All right, quarterback top 5, week 8. Who you got, Sean?
All right, I got, hold on. I'm assuming Jaden Daniels is out. Lamar Jackson, Jordan Love, number 2, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, and Joe Burrow.
Yep, I got Jackson, Allen, Love, Hurts, and then I have Stroud and Burrow tied. I think I have Stroud a little bit ahead. I know he had a terrible game against Green Bay, but we're going up against the Colts, so not really scared of the matchup. But who are you high on at quarterback this week?
Bo Nix. I already mentioned in the waiver wire pod, he's my top streamer if Sam Darnold isn't available. But he opens the week inside my top 12, so he's technically a QB1. I think he's a great 1-week rental against the Panthers this week because he's been getting better week in, week out. So I love, just him. His play on the field has been great, but fantasy as well. He's rushed for over 60 yards in back-to-back games. I always knew he had, rushing upside, but it's been even better than I thought. So his touchdown projection gets a huge boost this week. The Broncos have the 4th highest implied team total, which makes sense. They're playing the Panthers. So his touchdown equity's a lot higher here. And again, just that rushing upside has been phenomenal. He has at least 60 rushing yards or a touchdown in 5 of 7 games. So even if the passing yards might not be there this week, they probably don't have to throw it a ton. He still has the touchdown upside and the rushing upside we, look for when it comes to these streaming quarterbacks. So again, he's my QB12 to open the week.
Yeah, love Nix. He's actually my QB8. So I've been high on the Broncos since the beginning of the year to grow around a win total. Thought Nix would be a big part of that. I just thought, he's not going to be super flashy, but I do think he can kind of do what Sean Payton wants him to do. He's had some footwork issues to clean up and things like that. But overall, I like what I've seen for the most part. I know Bronco fans getting a little worried some of the throws he's missing, but a lot of it I think is correctable just with the footwork. So he might. I think he's a guy to monitor. He might be a kind of an every week QB1 sooner than not with this kind of rushing upside. I'm high on CJ Stroud. Again, I think, this is a week-to-week league and didn't quite see that coming against the Packers. I mean, I know it was an outdoor game. He's not as good on the road, and maybe that should have been the big tell with CJ Stroud last week. But, a lot of offensive line issues, some play calling issues with some free runners and things like that. But now you're going against the Colts, not nearly as formidable of a defense. And it's Gus Bradley. I think it's easy to prepare for. It's already the second meeting between these two teams, even though it is week 8. 26 in DVOA against the pass are the Indianapolis Colts. So I do trust Stroud in this spot. Still has Tank Diggs, still has Stephon Diggs. I mean, they might as well have been one person because they didn't do jack shit last week. But Tank Dell Stephon Diggs, Dalton Schultz. And that running game, I think, long-term, with Mixon playing so well, is going to take some pressure off Stroud and open some things up, because you're going to have to start creeping up to the line a little more and more stacked boxes with the way Houston is running the football now. So I have CJ Stroud as a top 6 QB option. He's the 11th quarterback in ECR. So if 10-team leagues, people might be looking away or looking for a different option, I think you go back to him in this spot against the Colts. I think it's too good a matchup indoors at home to pass up here. All right, who you low on for week 8 at quarterback?
Baker Mayfield, unfortunately, and he's just been incredible this year. He's actually QB2 on the season, just having an insane year. But now with Chris Godwin out, I feel like Mike Evans is doubtful this week. It's just gonna be tough for him to post QB1 numbers. He does have some sneaky rushing upside, but certainly not enough to carry his fantasy value right now. If anything, I could just see the Bucs becoming much more run heavy too, with their new 3-way running back committee. So just I have his passing yards, passing attempts lower, his efficiency lower, his touchdown upside lower. So he's all the way down to QB 18 to open the week.
Yeah, I could see that. I still have him as a borderline top 12. I mean, it gets kind of ugly in these mid tiers here, so I might move him around. But it's just with all these guys out, it's going to be a lot tougher. The good thing is the backfield's looking up, and Kate Otton's looking up. So maybe he just gets it done that way. But either way, yeah, it's probably not the week to mess around with Baker Mayfield, especially that they'll probably go a little run heavier. I would think as well with the backfield that they have now, the 3-headed monster. I am low on Dak Prescott, another guy with just big home road splits. And I do like the Cowboys this week, coming off the bye. San Francisco's just kind of decimated with injuries, and they have a bye next week. So who knows, with the questionable guys, if they give it their all. But that kind of lowers just, by San Francisco's offense not being at 100%, that lowers the shootout potential in this game. Yeah. And then you take into account that, Dallas would be, I think, smart, especially after, they've been getting called soft. I think they're going to want to run the ball a little bit more coming out of the bye. San Francisco, 3rd in pass defense DVOA, despite the injuries, 21st against the run. So, Dallas has had 2 weeks. McCarthy's been really good out the bye. I think he's 10-3 against the spread. So this is could be just a little bit run heavier, not as many points as you'd expect for a Dallas 49er game this time of year. So looking at the home road splits, especially 270 yards per game passing, 2 touchdowns per game passing in his career at home for Dak Prescott. On the road, 247. So it's a 23-yard drop off, and 1.5 touchdowns, which is half a touchdown drop off per game when he goes on the road. So low on Dak this week. I have him as QB 20. He's top 15 in expert consensus. All right, the prop. Let's go. Bo Nix. Bo Nix fantasy rank this week over under 12.5. Does he finish the top 12 option or no?
Oh man, so that's I'm gonna say no, and the reason why is if I look at last week, my QB 12 was Patrick Mahomes. I think I had him about a 52% chance to finish top 12. But there's no teams on bye this week, so that's 2 extra quarterbacks. So I think it'll be close. I think his median would be 13.5. But I'm gonna get sneaky here, and just because there's no teams on bye, that'll help. Although we're gonna have Spencer Rattler, maybe Marcus Mariota. Yeah. So I mean,
it's going to be close.
Yeah. And Bo Nix, he has a nice floor ceiling combo where his odds of finishing in the top half improve. But I just looking at last week, I had Mahomes at 50-50 for top 12. So just think with the extra couple quarterbacks, I'll go with the under here. I don't like it though.
Last 5, he's the median is QB 14. So yeah, he's been right there.
Yeah. No, it's a great prop though. Love that.
Thank you. All right, running back top 5 for week 8. Who you got?
Breece Hall, Joe Mixon, Kyron Williams, J.K. Dobbins, and Jordan Mason. Let's go.
Ooh. I got Brees number 1, so we're back.
Nice.
I mean, pouring out for Braylon Allen, but I can't complain, because Brees Hall is really good, especially as a pass catcher.
Yeah.
Coming out of the backfield. Although maybe you don't have quite as many opportunities against the Patriots if you're in a positive game script, but it's the Jets. They'll find a way to screw this up.
Yeah.
It should be good for Brees. But yeah, so Brees number 1. I still got the King number 2, Derrick Henry, Kyron Williams, Joe Mixon, Jordan Mason.
Nice.
Who are you high on for week 8 at running back?
J.K. Dobbins. He's my running back 4. ECR's RB22. I tend to just ignore that. I don't know what's going on there. But he's the clear lead back for the Chargers right now. And this should be just a very run-heavy game script against the Saints this week, which sets up perfectly for him. And the Saints are 31st in run defense DVOA, and a team I think is kind of giving up right now. So this is just a perfect spot for J.K. Dobbins. Just enjoy the ride as long as he's healthy, honestly. And then Rachaad White. I mean, this guy I have been shitting on all year, but I'm high on him this week. He's my RB31. Just when we thought he'd be left for dead, it's been a roller coaster ride the past couple weeks with, Bucky Irving outplaying him. I still think that's going to continue. And Sean Tucker, breaking out. He looked great last week. They didn't really try to give him the hot hand, but he looked like the hot hand to me. Doesn't matter. The Tampa Bay coaching staff clearly. Yeah. That's right. Just Tampa Bay can't quit Rachaad White. He's going to be the starting running back, and he's the clear pass catching back. So he's going to benefit from Evans and Godwin missing time as well. And, he's out there on, every third down. And if they convert the third down, they tend to get up to the line and call a run play to him. So I think just even if he's kind of in this murky 3-way committee, he has the role that's kind of game script proof right now. So I think they're going to be more run heavy without Godwin and Evans. And, White's going to see more targets as a result. So I think he's back in that, RB3 flex mix. Maybe he doesn't have a ton of upside, although he did score a few touchdowns last night, or a couple touchdowns last night. So I just think either way, he's kind of back in the mix now, and he kind of has like the highest floor ceiling combo of the 3 right now.
Yeah, I mean, fade the Tampa offense at your own risk, right? It's like
I know, right?
You think he might not have upside, but he might with all these guys out. But yeah, I think Dobbins is just low because he, in that great matchup, he only had 14 for 40 on the ground. Caught some balls though, which was good to see. But I think he's still a top 15-ish, top 10 option. I don't have him in top 5, but yeah, I think he's still RB1.
I'm just rolling with. Who knows if he'll end as my RB4, but I like to just roll with my raw projections open the week.
I dig it. Speaking of guys who are high in the raw projections, for me, Kareem Hunt, RB9, to open the week. He's 13th in consensus. He's probably creeping up into that category, but at this point, I think we have no choice but to treat him as our RB1. I mean, the Chiefs are just out of pass catchers. Juju Smith-Schuster's already been ruled out for week 8. So I think you're going to see defense running, and that's what they're going to kind of rely on in a divisional matchup. They're a 10-point favorite on the road here. The Raiders are 27th in DVOA on defense against the run, and these are Kareem Hunt's touches and yards and touchdowns in his 3 games with the Chiefs. 16 for 85, 28 for 117 and a touchdown, 24 for 83 and 2 touchdowns. So he's touched the ball an average of 26 times over the last 2 weeks. And this is after being signed off the street a week before that. So I think he's pretty entrenched here. I know Steele got a couple of carries here and there, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire maybe takes some away from, but I think he would take things away from Steele. With Perine staying as the hurry up, pass down, or the third down guy. So either way, 10-point favorite. I think Hunt's the guy you want. And then James Conner, he's the RB24 in consensus at Fantasy Pros, right? As we record this, I have him RB15. I was higher than him, higher than consensus on him last week as well. I just thought, looking at the Trey Benson started getting carries the week before, but it was kind of a weird game script there. And, Conner still is kind of the engine for this Arizona offense. It's not Marvin Harrison yet. So you're going up against the Miami defense, 30th in run defense, DVOA. Connor's the RB13 on the season. And he's coming off a 21 touch, 152-yard game. And more than that, great to see him hustle, get that fumble on an interception of Kyler. I think he took I think Tier Tart landed on his body weight or something. So that wasn't great, but looks good. Looks good out there. Still passing the eye test. As long as he's healthy, you gotta keep locking him in. So another guy I think fade at your own risk. Should be a good bet for 16 plus touches against a bad run defense. Who are you low on, Sean Kerner, heading into week 8 at running back?
James Cook. He's my RB21. And the Bills were a lot more pass heavy this week. Maybe they got Amari Cooper and they're like, you know what, we're now a pass heavy team. But that trend isn't, great for Cook long term. Plus, Ray Davis looked sharp again, outscoring him on half the snaps. A lot of that was on a garbage time touchdown. But either way, Ray Davis, mixing in more on early downs would make a ton of sense to just keep James Cook fresh the entire season. Cook isn't really a bigger back. I'm kind of surprised he's been a workhorse back in the NFL. So it would make a ton of sense to mix in Ray Davis more. Plus, whenever the Bills blow a team out, they usually get Ray Davis more work. So it kind of caps James Cook's ceiling, especially since he hasn't been involved in the passing game as much, especially lately. He had no catches last week. Doesn't have 3 or more receptions since week 3. Granted, he did miss a game there, but still, he's just not getting enough, passing game usage, and been relying on short yards touchdowns, which really isn't his thing. So I'm a bit down on him this week against the Seahawks. So he's my RB21.
Yeah, he is outside the top 20 for me as well. My RB21, same exact ranking. Nice. And I totally agree. It's just, there's only so many snaps to go around when you're not only mixing in Ray Davis, but even Ty Johnson gets, pass down, hurry up, third down, and sometimes gets carries too. So, and now Darrington Evans at some point probably is active as probably just special teamers, but yeah, don't love it for James Cook. He's explosive enough to make things happen, but we've seen Buffalo roll with, who was it? Was it Moss or was it Singletary ahead of Cook? Cook has been the RB2 in this offense before. So there's a chance, even a non-zero chance, if Davis keeps playing well, that Cook kind of goes back to that role of, more like a 40-ish% snap, 50-ish% snap guy than, 60, 70 that he had been. So yeah, he's still explosive enough. So it could be one of those situations where he's like, all right, only 10 touches and he scores twice or 3 times. It's always tough to fade him, but I agree. The median for him is decreasing. I'm low on Bucky Irving. And he did get in the end zone, salvage his week last week, very high scoring game, but you can't always expect that. And this true to what Bowles said, they did implement a 3-headed backfield. So, you're high on White. I agree. I have him higher than Irving as well. And you look at the snap counts last week, and this is a game when they scored, 31 points, which again, you don't know if they're going to do that every week. They 51 the week before. White 48%, Irving 35%, Tucker 20%. And that's with White coming off an injury. As you mentioned, Tucker looked good again. So, these guys are all probably going to get used as part of the game plan just because the receivers are banged up. But Atlanta is allowing the 6th fewest fantasy points per game to running back. So I don't think you want to kind of count on a guy getting 35% of snaps as even, a top. He's 27th in ECR. That's like borderline RB2. But I think he's best kind of left on the bench and just kind of wait it out, for this week and see what's going on, because if Tucker keeps getting 20% of the snaps, that's really going to cap Irving because he doesn't get as many passing down looks as Rachaad White. All right, running back prop. What you got?
Well, our boy Nick Chubb made his season debut last week, so let's have some fun and do a Nick Chubb rushing yards prop. This is live no matter what, so we have no idea if Jerome Ford's going to return this week, or if that'll even impact him, but everything's live here. And I'm gonna tough matchup against the Ravens, but I'm gonna set this line at 42.5. What say you?
I'm gonna say over. I have him at 49 to open the week. even factoring in the Ravens defense. I was a little high.
Do you have Ford playing?
Yep. I have a mix of essentially Ford, Strong, and Foreman kind of splitting all of the backup carries. So I didn't take anything away from Chubb because I don't think that's how it's going to work. I think it's going to be a 3-way rotation where Ford either takes the Strong role and Strong is special teams, or Deontay Foreman is just a straight up inactive. So one way or another, I think it's like Chubb is going to kind of get his carries, and then it's more about the guys behind him. So I still have Chubb for 12 for 49. So I'm going to go over that. I trust Nick Chubb, man. Like I trust Nick Chubb. It's you've always told me don't let your don't regress his yards per carry. So I have him over 4 against the Ravens, which is big.
He's not over 5 anymore, right?
No, he's 4.1 is probably I mean that's against the Ravens. That's generous. Maybe I'll lower it to 4.0, but either way, I still have him around 48. Even if I lowered it a little bit, so I'll go over there. But that's a good one. Mid 40s. I think that's kind of what we have to expect for now.
Right. I think his prop's going to be there. This Ravens run defense has been really good this year. Chase Brown was the only running back that had a rush for 10 or more yards against them all year. But then they had to face Sean Tucker last night, so that was their second running back that was able to get an explosive carry against them. So maybe Nick Chubb will be the third. We'll see.
I mean, he looked fine. I didn't really look bad or anything like that. Okay, wide receiver, week 8. Who we got in the top
5? Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Stephon Diggs, and Tyreek Hill. Welcome back to my top 5.
Ooh, nice. I have Justin Jefferson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, number 2, Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, A.J. Brown. So A.J. Brown's back for me. Tyreek's back for you. Who are you high on?
George Pickens is my wide receiver 11. I figured he would benefit with Russell Wilson under center. I mean, he tends to either bomb it or dump it off to his running backs. Pickens was the player that actually leaked that Wilson will be starting. He said he was getting some extra reps with them after practice since he was making his first start. But it just goes to show Pickens is putting in the work, and I think Tomlin rewarded him with his season high route run rate at 94%. I just think this is a good fit as long as Wilson's under center. Pickens gets a huge boost. Now, this could be, a more run-heavy game script against the Giants, but Pickens is the type of receiver, he doesn't need a ton of volume. He's still going to get those explosive downfield targets. And he scored his first touchdown of the season with Wilson. So just we could see more pass volume anyway, because Wilson's not going to scramble as much as Field. So, the needle's pointing up for Pickens as long as Wilson's under center. Never thought I'd say that, but that's where we are. At Jalen McMillan, I've already mentioned him on our waiver pod, but I think he's the most likely wide receiver to be the top option with both Chris Godwin and Mike Evans expected to miss time. Really him, Palmer, and Sterling Shepard could kind of cancel each other out, but I think McMillan has the most upside of the 3, and I think it's worth mentioning just Darnell Mooney opens the week as my wide receiver 20. He's just quietly having a solid season. He's much more of a high floor option than he has been in the past with the run heavy Bears. But just he has really solid underlying usage and a good bet for 4 to 5 receptions most weeks now. And he still has that big play upside. We haven't seen as much, but it's still there. So he's really settled in as a high end wide receiver 3 option. What was that? That was like John Brown several years ago. He was like a deep threat guy, and then he was like every week we were projecting for 4 to 5 catches on the Bills.
He turned into the number 1 for a while.
Kind of a similar. He's not the number 1. I mean, Drake London's still playing out of his mind, but just in this offense, he's really become like a high floor guy, which we haven't seen before. But he's been a really steady option in PPR leagues, and I think the best is still yet to come with him.
Yeah, talked about this on our in the preseason on one of these pods, but I don't think people realize just how much this Falcon offense was going to change going from Arthur Smith to, their current coordinator. Like, this is just a 1-1 personnel offense, or even a number 3 who's Ray McLeod is on the field like 90% of the time. Mooney pretty much doesn't leave the field. Neither does London. So just a completely different offense from last year when guys were shuffling in and out, and Mooney's been on the field. Cousins not scrambling. So just kind of maxes out the the amount of targets available. So yeah, good situation for pass catchers in Atlanta. I am high on Tyler Lockett. He's my wide receiver 33. He's 41 in consensus. DK Metcalf, week to week, but who knows? Maybe he plays. But he's got an MCL injury. But either way, I think Lockett is getting a little underrated as usual. He's a wide receiver 33 on the year. So that's actually where I have him ranked this week. And you're going up against a Bills team that they're good against receivers, but safety is not as good as the years past. And Seattle's been extremely pass heavy. And now you're going up against a Bills team that just kind of reloaded a bit and is getting healthier on offense. So could be a shootout. You are indoors here, and you could have your number one receiver on the sideline in Metcalf. So a lot of reasons to like Lockett. And I mentioned Ricky Pearsall as well. Talked about him in the waivers pod as well. But right now, he's still the 66th wide receiver in consensus. I have him over 20 spots higher. And depending what happens with Debo and Jennings, but especially Debo, he might move up into the top 40, top 35 because he did have an 84% route rate last week. He was targeted. He got a 29% target share after halftime from Brock Purdy. So the arrow is really pointing up on Pearsall, and they might need him as soon as this week to be kind of a full-time player, full-time contributor. So definitely a guy to monitor there. Who you low on? Wide receiver.
I'm low on Deontay Johnson. He was banged up heading into the week. Unsure if he was going to play. Clearly, it was impacting him. He only ran around on 73% of dropbacks. Only saw 3 targets, so he just wasn't the same even when he was out there. And he might be on the trade block too. So, we could start to be seeing like some Devontae Adams type injuries keeping him out. But he faces Denver this week. So if Pat Surtain returns this week, he might get the shadow treatment from him. So I'm just down on Deontay short term, but he could be a nice buy low after this week, since I think there's a chance he does get traded. Who knows if he ends up in Kansas City? He would be potentially a top 10 receiver. So I would just weather the storm now. So I'm down on him this week, but long term, still love him. Like I think he's gonna have a good second half of the season. But just as of now, he's let's see, my wide receiver. Wide receiver 30. So yeah, he's still kind of like a low end wide receiver 3. Probably have to play him in most spots, but either way, we're just lowering expectations this week at least. And the wide receiver on the other side, I'm low on Courtland Sutton. Ran 28 routes last week without a target. I believe he was the leader in the clubhouse when it comes to that stat for most routes run without a target. Always love seeing that. But just unfortunately, with Denver winning so easily with the run game, short passing, just didn't need to throw to Sutton as much. And that could be the issue again this week. They're facing the Panthers, so they're going to be able to get away with a run-heavy, conservative passing attack again. So I'm down on them this week. Plus, Troy Franklin's really starting to merge. Bo Nix is starting to target his mix of tight ends at a higher rate now. So it's all taking away from Sutton a bit. Down on him this week. He'll bounce back in more pass-heavy game scripts, but this week against the Panthers, he probably needs to score a touchdown to offer you any value. I don't see a ton of volume going his way this week.
Yeah, it's one of those. It's like a good matchup as in the Panthers defense.
Yeah,
stinks, but J.C. Horn is still there, and it hasn't. They've still 23rd in DVOA against number 1 receiver, so they haven't been great. Period. But yeah, you do worry about the volume, and it's kind of just difficult to project what Sean Payton is going to do week to week with some of the guys on this offense. Sean Payton. I'm low on Wan'Dale Robinson. He's the number 36 wideout in consensus ranks as we record this. He's my number 47. With Malik Neighbors back, I just don't think that Wan'Dale, in the state of this offense, is going to be really an asset unless he scores a touchdown, and it's less likely because, number one, the Giants without Andrew Thomas, it's just really tough for them to sustain offense. Saw that last week. So the answer to that, they could go more run heavy. Obviously, you would think, most times slot receiver, you get more of those targets underneath, quick passing game when you have offensive line issues. But he got 9 targets last week and turned him into 6 catches for 23 yards. So like his ADOT is a little bit too low for me to really be too interested in this. He's already kind of maxing out and was maxing out, his volume with Neighbors out of the lineup. Last week, his ADOT was 1.9. That's just that you're just essentially relying on all after the catch. And on the year, he's only averaging 3.7 after the catch. So put those two together. Like if you're being targeted only a couple yards beyond the line of scrimmage and you're averaging under 4 yak per catch, it's like you're a running back. So you could have 10 catches for 50 yards, still not going to mean too much unless you're in a full PPR, and most likely unless he scores a touchdown. So I'm off Wandale this week. And Jalen Tolbert's another guy's a little high for me, 37th in consensus. I have him as a number 54. Already talked about Dak Prescott, just not as productive as a passer on the road. This could be a little bit of a lower scoring game with just all the injuries to San Francisco's offense. And they're a run funnel. They're 21st in DVOA against the run, 3rd against the pass. So, yeah, Brandon Cook's still out. But I think, Lamb, Ferguson, the top 2 options in this offense. They want to get Dowdle more involved. So I think, Tolbert had some good weeks, but I think this week we should temper expectations. All right, receiver prop. Let's go. Last week he gave me that Cooper versus Devontae. Got lucky with Cooper because he ran a lot fewer routes, but much more productive. Let's go. Let's go Devontae versus Garrett Wilson this week.
Oh.
I will take your pick. Who finishes more half PPR points?
So you're just going straight up.
Yep.
I'll go Wilson.
All right.
I actually thought about that earlier. Let me look at my underlying shit here. But yeah, I mean, Devontae just went in like he's been playing in this offense for 3 years now. I mean, he does have a history with Rodgers, but 98% routes run rate. Just his target rate has been down this year. I still think Wilson is the player. He's entering his prime, so I still think Wilson's probably the better talent right now. So I still have Wilson getting more targets. Right now, he has more chemistry with Rodgers, so I think he has a slight edge. I mean, I have Wilson, my wide receiver 14, and Adams, my wide receiver 19. They're divided by like a half a point, so it's very close. But I'll still lean Wilson here. Do you have them tied?
I have Adams 11, Wilson 14. So I have.
Oh, okay.
Adams. I actually think Adams is better talent right now. I just think he's still more consistent. I mean, we just haven't seen much of him because he's been with the Raiders. I'm not gonna ding him for that yet. And Garrett Wilson, he has all the tools. He's just been a little bit inconsistent, as we saw with some of the drops off his. He makes a lot of mistakes. I guess that's the way I'll put it. But I mean, both of them great options.
Yeah.
This week, either way. But I do think it's an interesting question because it's not, like you said, it's not hard to you tweak like one thing and it goes the other way. So
right.
I'm curious to see how this ends up.
Yeah, just Wilson's in year 3. Like, let me put it this way: he's only going to get better.
Yeah.
Whereas Devontae's past his peak. Yeah, we hope. So just their trajectory's a little bit different. Oh God, yeah. Well, I don't think Wilson's in the same ballpark as that. But
I don't either. He's much better.
Either way, this is close, and we won't even talk about the Jets. Let's move. I was going to say something about their record and everything, but we could just move on.
All right, let's go to tight end. Who you got in your top 5 for week 8?
My top 5 is Travis Kelce, Trey McBride, K. Dotton at number 3, Brock Bowers, and Jake Ferguson.
I have Kittle number 1, assuming he's healthy. Bowers number 2, Kelce number 3, Njoku number 4, and Trey McBride number 5. So nice. I'm high on Njoku as well. Now you may talk about.
Yeah. Well, I thought I was high on Dave Njoku. He's my tight end 7. Still a lot of things going on. He could go higher. But yeah, I'm pretty sure I highlighted him here last week. Just with Amari Cooper gone, he's going to get more targets. And Njoku's been playing banged up. He's been able to unable to finish a couple of games this year. So I figured his routes run rate would only go up. Sure enough, everything came together this week. And I also thought that Jameis Winston would take over at some point. That happened as well. So DTR could end up drawing the start this week if he's healthy. So that's why I have Njoku around tight end 7. But if Winston is under center, I think he would certainly go up in my top 5. But he just has a ton of upside this week and the rest of the season now. So, tight end's been such a shit show that he's one of the guys that I think is trending up, and I think we can treat as a top 10, maybe top 5 option the rest of the way here.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, he's clearly the guy they're trying to get involved in Cleveland. He's even if DTR starts, I mean, I think DTR targeted him a good amount too, and they do. I mean, they worked together in the past, so either way, I do like Njoku a lot this week as well. And you mentioned your guy Cade Otton. He is my tight end 6, tight end 15 in ECR. That needs to go up. He has all of the pass catchers around him hurt. Mike Evans looks like he's going to miss with that hamstring. Godwin's done for the year. Otton played 100% of the pass snaps last game. It's usually around 95 to 100, runs a route about just under 90% of those. So rarely pass blocks or anything like that. And, this week could be the number 1 target on the team, as crazy as that sounds. So this is the Cade Otton week. All right. Low. Who are you low on at tight end week 8?
I hate to do this, but I'm low on our boy, Tucker Kraft. He's my tight end 12. Great matchup, too, here against the Jaguars. But and I'm still high on Kraft long-term. I think he still could be a league-winning ad from, a few weeks ago. But all the Packers wide receivers are healthy for the first time with Love under center since week 1. So Kraft's still just getting amazing playing time, a 97% routes run rate. Only drew 3 targets, though. Love's been more willing to dump off to Josh Jacobs than Malik Willis was. Congrats on Josh Jacobs for his first pass-catching touchdown, too. That's crazy. So still start Kraft if you have him, but just, I would lower expectations like tight end 12 this week. He probably needs they have 4 receivers. He just needs one of those receivers to miss time to see his target share go up a bit. But, again, all 4 are healthy right now, so it makes it a little bit tougher for Kraft to draw those targets. And he's not getting a ton of targets downfield or things like that. So he does need the volume. And yeah, this is a great matchup this week, but I'm targeting the Packers receivers instead. But yeah, again, he's still a low end tight end 1, just lower expectations a tad this week.
Yeah, I'm tight end 11, so I'm right there.
Yeah.
As well. I'm low on Pat Freiermuth. He's my tight end 20, still 14th in ECR. He needs to drop. I know Russell Wilson has given the Steelers hope, but I think this is still a team that wants to run the football. You're a 6-point home favorite against the Giants. It doesn't shake out as much of a passing script. And, Michael Pruitt is back. That did cut into Freiermuth's usage in certain personnel groups just a tad bit. Washington seems to be emerging. I mean, how many times did they run that same play to Darnell Washington last Sunday? I know you didn't want to talk about the Jets, but I mean, it was just funny that same.
Hey, you could talk about them.
The pass
I don't want to talk about the Saints.
Fair. I don't think Saints fans. Yeah. But yeah, it's a spread the ball around offense. Russell Wilson seemed to get the receivers a little bit more involved. Van Jefferson got a touchdown. Pickens got his. So I just don't know if Freiermuth's going to be dependable even as a top 15 guy. I think he's more of a back end. He might settle in as a back end tight end too. Until we see, if we start seeing Wilson targeting more, but Wilson is always notorious for kind of under targeting tight ends for most of his career, unless it was like Will Dissly. So kind of a little concerned here about Freiermuth. All right, prop tight end. What you got?
So this is kind of a silly one, but I'm going to go with TJ Hawkinson in case he does make his debut. Are people just putting him in his lineup because tight end's such a disaster? I don't know, but I'm going to set the line at this is a tough one. I'm going to set it at 21.5.
Receiving yards.
Rushing plus receiving yards. Let's put it. I'm kidding. In that case.
Right, yeah, I don't think they're gonna give him a rushing attempt. That would just be malpractice. I'll go over if he plays.
Oh, okay.
I would actually have him in the low 30s if he played. I think he would play about 50 to 60% of snaps. So I think he'd actually be fairly
snaps or routes run.
Well, yeah, essentially. Same thing in this case because he's a kind of a not blocking.
Yeah.
But I think it would. I think if he was in the lineup, I would project him for about 3 catches. So I'll go over this.
Yeah, I mean, he was close to returning, and they do have the short week, but I think that maybe the goal was to play him this week. We'll see. Again, if he doesn't play, this prop doesn't count. But yeah, just I'm sure we're going to get some sit-start questions because people are itching to play T.J. Hawkinson. But I'm assuming you're the same take as me. Just wait 1 week. Maybe next week, if he plays this week, we can plug him in as a top 12 tight end.
Yeah, he probably won't get to top 12, but I mean, the Rams are dead last in DVOA against tight ends. So if you need a spark, I feel like he's going to be.
Not top 12 this week.
I'm saying, he's out of the top 12 this week. But if you really need, like, if you need a streamer, or like you just need a spark and you're an underdog, I don't mind it because I feel like it's kind of like the Amari Cooper situation. He'll probably get targeted when he's on the field.
True.
He won't play a full comp, and this Ram defense has just been so bad against tight ends that I think it's worse. And the fact that they sat him last week after he practiced, I think
they might limit him to like red zone packages, which would be great. But next week they're at home against the Colts. So assuming he gets his 55% routes run rate next week against the Colts, could you see him being a top 12 option?
Yeah. Oh, top. Sure,
yeah,
like top
that's
5.
what I was getting at. But yeah. Oh, top 5. Yeah. You know what? At this point, yeah. I think we have a couple teams on bye next week. Yeah. Top 5 for sure.
And I remember the first game he played in Minnesota. He came over from Detroit that same week on like a Tuesday or something.
Yeah.
And caught 9 for 9 for 70 yards in his first game with O'Connell. So, I mean, I'm not going to be too. I think I was a lot more conservative with drafting him,
for sure.
Earlier in the year, because like you just don't know exactly when he's going to come back and whatnot. But if he's out there, I think I'll feel pretty good about it. All right, that's going to do it for our Week 8 player projections episode here on the Fantasy Flex. Make sure to subscribe to the Fantasy Flex podcast so you don't miss an episode all season long. Kerner and I are dropping 3 per week. We got our waivers pod already up and our fantasy DFS preview pod coming next. You can find Sean on X at @the_oddsmaker. I'm at Chris Raybon. We're at those same handles on the free award-winning Action Network app. And don't forget, FantasyLabs.com is where all of our fantasy football content lives, including our award-winning rankings and projections. Promo code FLEX40, FLEX40, gets you $40 off a Fantasy Labs membership. Until next time, let's get this money.